Today, there's dangerous news from the direction of Pokrovsk. Here, Russia launched a surprise attack on the eastern flank, putting Ukraine's new Donbas defense line in the northwest in critical danger before it could be secured. With the enemy exploiting the gap, the Ukrainian command now has a short time to remedy the situation by redeploying its most lethal unit, the Azov Brigade. After the initial Russian offensive on the eastern flank, the expectation was that Russian forces would try to repeat their Avdiivka tactic, encircling Pokrovsk from the east by slowly tightening the flank defenses. However, Russian commanders instead took a sharper and bolder approach, identifying a heavily fortified section of the Ukrainian defense line in the north and attacking it before adequate defenses and coordination could be established. This attack aimed not only to threaten Pokrovsk, but also to weaken the newly constructed Donbas defense line, a system of layered trenches, strongholds, and natural barriers designed to slow attackers until drone operators and mobile reserves could respond. For several days, Russian forces advanced between Shakov and Dobropilya, using infiltration tactics to capture several settlements. Russian forces exploited tree lines to infiltrate settlements, where they began to build up their strength. They breached several settlements, made progress, and penetrated nearly 13 kilometers in depth in about 3 to 4 days. Alarmingly, they then advanced steadily and easily bypassed newly constructed heavy fortifications as they emptied, threatening to turn these strong points against Ukrainian forces. Now they are attempting to establish a defense near Novovobyen toward the Dobropilya-Kramatorsk highway. This advance is made possible in part by a failure of Ukrainian coordination, although the armed forces have largely overcome past communication and transparency issues. In this most critical sector of the front, old weaknesses are resurfacing. Broken Ukrainian coordination. Commanders of one brigade reported to higher headquarters that the situation was under control, claiming that all enemy forces had been neutralized, even as soldiers on the ground immediately reported ongoing Russian infiltration and buildup. Manpower shortages left even well-prepared defensive positions poorly protected, while a unified response, combining drones, artillery, and aviation, failed to deploy with the speed and cohesion needed to halt the enemy's advance. Russian government-linked analysts openly downplayed the achievement, calling it a reconnaissance and infiltration operation, not a breakthrough, further reinforcing Ukraine's underestimation of the Russian threat. However, once the gap was discovered, the Russian command sent in a real assault force, not just a small sabotage team. This also points to a failure of Ukrainian reconnaissance and intelligence, as even if drone surveillance were sufficiently layered and constant, such movements would likely have been detected and targeted long before they reached dangerous depths. Azov Brigade moved to Pokrovsk. The urgency of the situation is underscored by an open letter from a prominent Azov Brigade commander to President Zelensky. He warned that once Russia gains control of Ukraine's defensive structures, destroying them is nearly impossible. The only appropriate response is an immediate pincer maneuver to cut off the leading edge of reinforcements, followed by a mop-up operation. However, such a counterattack is risky, as the Russian command almost certainly anticipates it and may be setting a trap. However, the alternative of allowing Russia to dig in deeper could be far worse, so time will tell. A swift, coordinated counterattack while Russia is still consolidating could be successful, but hesitation will almost certainly guarantee long-term losses in the region. Because of this danger, the Azov Brigade has now been moved to the Pokrovsk sector, demonstrating the Ukrainian High Command's intention to act decisively as the stakes extend far beyond Pokrovsk.